Chairman, hold on, let us stream. We're going to stream now. Give us 1 second. We'll let you know.
All right.
Okay, we're ready.
All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is executive session of the Memphis City Council. Today is Saturday, February 20th, 2021. I hope everybody is safe and warm. We're having a meeting today. I thought it would be very beneficial to bring council members up to speed with up-to-the-minute information from MLGW with what's going on, how we got here, but equally important, what we can expect in the coming days as things thaw out and as we roll forward. So this is an informational session from MLGW. Any questions you may have, if it's kind of a yes, no, go ahead and jump in the chat box. But what I would recommend at this point is let's use this as information to take out to back to our districts. And anything else we can get into it on Tuesday. That being said, President Young, you are recognized. You have the ball.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, and we certainly appreciate the opportunity to be with you all today. Certainly wish the circumstances were different. It's been a tough several days. We know that a lot of you and certainly your constituents, our customers, and the public have had to endure some really brutal cold and inconveniences of not having services. So we wanted to kind of give you all an overall update. I do have some folks from our team on with us today that will give you some of the latest numbers and trends, information on what has occurred. Just by way of background and overview, as you know, we have had, of course, late last week, we had the ice storm, which taxed our electric system. We had up to about 46,000 outages that we had to restore. We brought in some outside crews. That got done really within 48 hours, relatively well. We then, of course, had subsequent storm that came through with more freezing weather, and that created more challenges, in particular now for our water system. During this time of year, our folks will tell you we typically have, because of the freezing weather that generally doesn't last this long, we generally have water main breaks that we have to repair, and our crews do a fine job addressing those. What we've experienced over the last several days is really unprecedented. And we have seen our production facilities, and Nick Newman, our Vice President of Engineering and Operation, will give you some more details on this. But our production facilities, which are our pumping stations and the associated wells, have certainly been challenged to produce the volumes of water that we would need to maintain the pressure. So when we saw those pressures dropping during the week, late during the week, we really began to find it challenging to keep our reservoirs full. We could not keep up because we had several breaks on the system, and so we couldn't produce enough water to keep the pressure where it needed to be so that everyone had the type of water pressure they needed. We first started noticing these challenges, and Nick will get into this more, up in the Shelby Forest area, mainly because of the elevation there, but we've seen it across the county on the areas that we serve where the pressure has not been able to be maintained at above 20 PSI consistently. So as you may know, we have, this is a big thing that we've been trying to reiterate, the boil water advisory, which was issued late on Thursday, was issued as a result of that. It was not issued as a result of any contaminants in the water. There's no indication of any contamination in the water at all. We are testing the water. There will be a process which we will share with you all in a little bit. As we back out of the advisory, there's a process that we have to go through to deal with that, including testing and state communication. But at this point, we are asking our customers, of course, who do have water, to boil that water for up to 3 minutes if they're going to consume it. Now, the health department, of course, you may have heard, has reached out, and they've issued a directive that restaurants who cannot comply with the boil water advisory, if they need water for consumption purposes or food preparation, then they cannot operate. And so they're not closing all restaurants, as I understand it, but it is that if they cannot comply with the advisory, they do have to cease operation. Now, washing clothes is fine, taking a shower is fine, hand washing is fine. that doesn't require boiling. It's really about ingesting water. So we've been trying to communicate to our customers what that's about. And we've also been trying over the last several days to sort of respond to a lot of different rumors. And I know many of you have gotten them. Some of you have been subjects of them. A lot of different rumors that have been going around about water being shut off and we're going out cutting off water. Look, with the simple thing we've been doing, and Gail's team's doing a great job. We're just trying to say, look, if you are the best place for you to find out what's going on with the water supply, with water issues, is at our MLGW official website or on our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. But if it's not from an official MLGW site, it's just don't trust it, because we want to make sure everybody gets the right information. Someone may be telling you something that's true, but to validate that, please tell your constituents to validate that through us. It's really important, because things get out of hand and have gotten out of hand because folks are forwarding information. I've gotten them from elected officials, not even on this body, that they got it and thought it was accurate and acted on it and sent it around. So there's a lot of that we're trying to tamp down. We do appreciate, no question, you all stepping up with the water. I heard you all talking about that a little bit earlier. I reached out to Doug McGowan on Thursday once I knew this was coming, and Alonzo and I had a conversation, and we started thinking ahead that there might be some concerns about bottled water. So I really want to commend you all and thank you and other leaders for pulling together, the mayor's office for pulling together on that, because that's certainly something that will help. So the system, if this were a patient that showed up at Regional 1, if our water system were a patient that showed up at Regional 1, I would say they're critical. We are in the red status, if you will, but the patient has gotten better since yesterday, but they're not out of the woods. And so that may be a way to think about this. We still have a lot that we need to do. I spent some time last night out with some of our crews working. It's going to be several long days and nights ahead before we can get the system back to stability, where we know that the system can actually take care of itself. And that's going to consist largely of what we're going to have to do with repairing those broken mains and getting our pumping stations back functioning in a manner in which we need to have where the pressure can be maintained throughout our system. And so a lot of folks are working hard on that. We're seeing some progress. But with the warming temperatures, we are expecting to see more breaks and failures in lines. That's going to happen. And so it's going to be kind of like whack-a-mole for a minute or two, or a day or two, while we repair a break here and another break starts over there. And we're going to have to go over there and repair that break and then another one. So that's going to probably happen here today and tomorrow. But we are trying our best to make sure we address those issues. So we have had over roughly 55 to 60 breaks in the mains that we've been dealing with since this started. Well over 2,000 customer shutoffs that we've had to do. And I'll address this real quickly, and Nick will tell you some more details. Again, we are not planning to shut off water to residential customers. Emphasis on not. There are no plans to shut water off to residential customers. We do have situations and have had situations where customers' service lines have ruptured on their side of the meter in their homes or businesses where the water is spewing, and we've come out and shut the water off at the meter. We've also gotten indications through smart meter technology where we have had some flow that is more than it should be, or even at an account that's dormant. That has given our team a signal to go out and check on that, and we've had to shut some of those off. So we have done some water cutoffs. Those have been at the request of the customer, or because the water, because of a rupture or a frozen pipe or something that's happened that's necessitated us shutting the water off at the meter. We are working with some of our large customers. We've been doing that for the last few days. Jim West, I think, is on, and he can give you an update on that. We've been working with them, our top 100 water users, to ask them to curtail, and we do have provisions in our contracts with them where if we need to, we will disconnect their water service if we need to. Our focus has really been around hospitals, the prison, 201 Poplar, The airport, we've been trying to make sure we can maintain pressure. As you know, the airport's trying to open back up. I just got off the phone with Scott Brockman right before this call. I got an update from him. So we're trying to focus on some of those key locations to get them up and running, and certainly want to keep the hospitals up and running as well. And Nick can give you some information on that. So suffice it to say that we're not out of the woods, and we appreciate everyone's patience. This has taxed our system. We, as you know, implemented a 5-year service improvement plan late last year. Really haven't been able to get it started. We've gotten some things done on it, which we'll talk about on Tuesday. But this is going to be a lengthy process to correct, because some of the as you know from the conversations we had, a lot of this is at our pumping station. Some of it is going to take a little while to repair. But again, we are confident that we will get the system back up and running in short order. I wish I could give you a date. I wish we had a date, but we don't. We might have a better idea late tomorrow or Monday. Right now, we just don't. And so with that, at a high level, I'm going to ask Nick, and I don't know, Nick, if you want to share your screen or not, or if you just want to talk through those numbers, but we do have some information that we'll share in terms of, what's going on. I know you're concerned about areas where we may have had main breaks, what areas versus others. And it's kind of, I'm going to just tell you now, it's kind of everywhere. But Nick, do you want to jump in?
Yes. Can y'all hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
Okay. All right. So I can try to share my screen. I'm having some computer difficulties, or I might can just go through the numbers. But like JT said, give it a try. Maybe it'll work.
Brooke, would you get presenter status, please?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be able to share now, Nick.
There it is. Got it. Thanks. This is not the one we usually use, so I'm having to learn as we go. All right. So this is this is a smart sheet that we developed. Like JT said.
Nick, can you blow that up a little bit on the right? Are you able to? Maybe not. Go ahead.
I'm afraid I'll unlock it if I do that.
That's okay. That's okay. Go ahead.
I apologize.
We can see it. It's all right.
Okay, so like JT said, if this was a patient, we would still be critical. We are seeing some improvement today. So it's kind of a twofold issue. One is he talked about the pipe ruptures. So if you look at this data here, we're averaging about 155 million gallons a day right now. If you took a year ago, now there's a lot of other factors that could factor into this, weather, other things going on. But last year at this time, we did about 106 million gallons average. So if you look for on the 15th, 16th, this is this week. So you can see how our numbers have increased throughout the week. And this is attributed to what JT talked about was ruptured water mains, as well as a lot of services. And these services to customers and business could be as small as a 1 inch up to a 10 inch. And we're finding those throughout the system, and they release a lot of water. So that's one part of the problem. Right now we've repaired 53 water mains, and this is the breakdown of how many we've repaired each day. I just got off the phone with our operations manager, and she says we've got 4 right now, and we've got 3 more that are suspected. So we're sitting at probably 7, because they've already been looked at by MLGW personnel before they send it to our this area to work. So we're looking at probably 7 mains so far today. And as JT said, as it warmed up, we're going to find more of these ruptured mains throughout the county, as well as more frozen services that the customers have that have burst. So it's going to be this warming temperature is definitely going to be an indicator. I'm going to kind of skip down here. I'll come back to wells in a minute. So JT talked about the cutoffs that we're doing at the residential and commercial businesses. So we've done 2,295 cutoffs since the 15th. And these are attributed to cutoffs for broken services where the customers' houses or businesses are flooding. Frozen services they have no water at all. Along with this are when customers or people call us in and say, hey, this building's water's running out the windows, out the doors, and we go out and cut those off as well. So you can see throughout the week how the numbers have spiked. They tailed off a little bit yesterday, but we're not getting the calls today that we're expecting from that. We're expecting that number to climb as well. And this, along with the ruptured water mains, are what's increasing the demand that I showed you up here. That's why it's so much higher than it typically is in a typical February day. So the other part of that JT talked about was our pumping stations. So if you look at our pumping stations, they're throughout the county. They're kind of spread out throughout the county. So the water wells are what pump the water out of the ground from our aquifer that feed to our stations. And that water is to fill our reservoirs. And then we pump it out of there to our customers. So we have 98 wells that are operational today. And this number it changes because they go offline and we have to go restart them and do lots of work on those. We have a total of 134 wells that we can get running. So about 73 of our wells are operating right now. So in the next days, we have repaired 14 wells so far, and then we've had to go out and thaw out 32 wells. Now, some of these wells had to be visited more than once. They kick off again, kind of like JT said, whack-a-mole. You get one running, and either when it was extremely cold or something malfunctions, and they go out and fix it again. But then to kind of wrap up on this spreadsheet, if you look at our water, these are our list of our water pumping stations. So red is critical, and yellow is, well, y'all know what red, yellow, and green is. But so red means we can't fill out our reservoir. We can't fill the reservoir to feed out, and we can't maintain pressure. We can't maintain pressure. So those are red. The ones that are in yellow status are we can fill our reservoirs. They are starting to fill today, and we've got a lot more in this category today, which is a good sign. That's the sign that we're saying is good. A lot of these in yellow were in red yesterday. And then green is we can keep the reservoir filled, and we also can supply pressure to the communities. So that's kind of where the status is of our infrastructure. One thing to keep in mind, we have reached out to help, gotten help from Collierville, City of Collierville, City of Germantown, Bartlett, and Millington to help us with this. They've actually opened some valves to help. We are all interconnected. They're kind of helping us when they can, and when it draws down their system, they're having to close off. So that's helping out a lot. We're in close contact with EMA. We have a rep that is our EMA person at MLGW. They're working with the hospitals, trying to help with that. St. Francis, Regional 1, the Methodist hospitals, actually all of them, they've helped on bringing out. Some of those, they've had to bring tanker trucks out. St. Francis is one, they brought a tanker truck out to keep them running. So we're working closely there on that part as well. So that's kind of where we are. 2 days ago, we were pretty bad shape, really bad shape. Yesterday, we were about in the same shape as we were the day before. And today, with the ability to be able to fill our reservoirs, we feel like we're heading in the right direction. JT, do you want me to talk about the kind of the unwind, how to unwind this now, or do you want me to wait to do that?
On the boil water, yeah, that'd be good to go ahead and give everybody an idea of how that would happen.
I don't know how to get rid of this screen now, but anyway. So the way the boil order advisory works, like he said, it's a precautionary. We don't have any indication. Hey, thanks. We don't have any indication of there's any contaminants in our water supply, in our water distribution system. This is an advisory, precautionary advisory in case we do. So the way we unwind that is when we get a substantial pressure, which is above 20 pounds throughout our system, that's throughout our entire distribution system, our lab, MLGW's lab, will go out and take samples throughout the city and county and have that water tested to make sure there's no contaminants or in the water that can hurt our customers. So once those are tested in the lab and we get the results back, it takes around 24 hours to get those results back. Then we can work with the state to release us from this boil advisory to ensure our customers that our water is, again, safe to drink. That was kind of fast. I'm sorry, guys, but I just wanted to get through that for you. But be glad to take any questions you might have.
So let me say this. I got some questions I see in the chat, and let me see if we can address those. One, Councilman Jones is asking about a map around the locations of the pumping stations, Nick. And I think we have one, and I guess the question is that available like a PDF or something that'll show those, or can we put it on the report when we do it? It would probably be pretty small, but we can certainly, the answer to that is yes, we can. We'll just have to figure out the best way to get it to you.
Yeah, and due to infrastructure, we're really hesitant about putting just a great map to exactly where these are located. We will give you kind of the areas they are.
Yeah, that's what I mean, areas. There you go.
Yeah, just give you the areas of where these pumper stations are. I'd be glad to do that. We can get that for you.
Yeah, not exact locations, but we can certainly give you the general areas of where those are. And Councilman Warren, I guess, is asking about seeing this daily. I assume you mean the metrics that we are showing, the data and whatnot. Sure, that this is going to be updated every day. We do a morning update call, and we do one. In fact, we're doing one after we get off this call. I've got a press conference, and then we're going to do another call. But yes, this gets updated daily, so we can make sure that we get this. We can get this sent out. Absolutely. And in fact, posted maybe. Gail, you and your team maybe can post this on our website as well. Let's see. Alan Wade asks us, we had a main rupture in our neighborhood. Crews were present at sunrise and completed around 11 a.m. Orders restored. Thank you. Appreciate that, Alan. Thank you very much. And I thought I saw another one. Okay. When is the end of the boil water advisory, or when will normal water pressure return? Nick or Alonzo, you all want to try to address that?
We really don't have a date for that right now. We are still struggling. Once we get our pressure stabilized throughout the system, we can make a better determination of that. Until we can get our reservoirs refilled and have good pressure out, we maintain the state mandate for pressure, we can give you a better idea of that. But right now, I would dare to try to predict that. Alonzo, you got anything to add?
Yeah, it's just, it has to get stable. Then we have to do the test. The tests take a certain amount of time to run, about 16 to 24 hours to run those tests. So roughly stabilization, and then a day or two after that, and the test has to show clear, and then we can rescind the water.
All right. And there's a question around the communications with Shelby County Schools concerning the return of workers on Monday if water can't be accessed fully in buildings. Now we are working. Jim West is, I think, on. Jim, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. So our key accounts team is in touch multiple times a day with Shelby County Schools. We're kind of watching it on a day-to-day basis. We're fortunate, I guess, in that only the teachers will be reporting back into the school buildings on Monday. We have another week, I think, before students return. So we're in active communication. We do not have a firm answer for them yet, and that will depend on what water availability is at each of the school locations. But I'm sure we'll be talking to them throughout the weekend before Monday morning starts.
Got you. Okay, and again, this is just a reference back to the locations, exact locations of our well protected by Homeland Security. I assume that's true, Alonzo or Cheryl. Is that the case?
Yes.
Okay. So that's why we can't give exact locations. Councilwoman Robinson asking about how do we protect our water pumping stations from bad players. One way, of course, is to secure those locations and not making those widely available. We do have security, physical security, as well as other types of security. You all want to add anything else, Nick or Alonzo?
This is Nick. I would. So the state comes in and does inspections of our entire water production and distribution system every 2 years. We were inspected on that last year. Part of that, of course, in dealing with every aspect of water quality, water quantity, security, every factor around the water, our water lab, and we scored a 99 out of 100 on it. So we do really well with water security. We do well with water quality. Like JT said earlier, this is a water quantity due to the freezing temperatures we still have the best quality water in the world, in my opinion.
And that sanitary survey, as you just heard Nick say, was done last year. We again scored 99 out of 100, phenomenal. And Phil, the team does a great job. Well water is of course tested and tracked at the site and throughout the service area. So great, good point. Question: how can we boil water at school? It's a good question. And I don't know specifically because it depends, I guess, on the situation. But the clear point is that any water that's going to be consumed, be it directly or washing off vegetables or fruit or whatever, should be boiled. I think it's 3 minutes, Nick.
Yes, 3 minutes.
3 minutes. And I mean, a microwave can boil water, right? I assume. You can do that through the microwave. You can do it, of course, on stovetop. We're just grateful that we are able to, we're in a situation where people still, we have power and gas where you can actually boil your water. That's a blessing right now. So we're grateful for that. But those are the ways that I would suggest that we could do that. And Chairman asked, are there any indications at all of contaminants in the water? The answer to that is no. And I really would encourage you at just make sure if there are questions that you get from constituents, just please make sure that they understand that there are no contaminants in the water. Again, the boil water advisory is precautionary because of water quantity, not quality. The water low pressure means that we don't necessarily have the volume of water available. And that's really what has precipitated that advisory that's come up. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, and so let's see here. Councilwoman Robinson saying they got kitchens in the schools and all of that. Will cutting off water pressure at school buildings help alleviate tension in the entire city? I'm going to ignore that one because I don't know the answer to that. I know that if kind of like we said a little bit earlier, we are only cutting off water where there's a problem. So, if there's a problem with, water being, there's a rupture behind the meter of a pipe or something like that, certainly in fact, we treat those as emergencies. So we want to be notified of that so that we can get out to the locations, whether it's a commercial or a residential location, and shut that off as soon as possible. So we do have folks that are doing that. Let's see, Councilwoman Logan says it was shared on a newscast that the infrastructure had a part to play. Please elaborate. Nick, you can, and Alonzo can jump in here. I just want to maybe reiterate, I don't know if we touched on it before, but as we brought to you the service improvement plan last year, we talked about the needs that we had in the water system. We had HCR engineering that came in and did an evaluation of our water system back in the fall of 2019. And that gave us a lot of information that we baked into our service improvement plan. And we discussed how we knew that we had a lot of aged equipment, some dating back to the 30s in some of our plants. We also knew that we had a number of wells, if you think about it. I think, Nick, you mentioned this, but wells at the plants, that's really if you will, the generation. That's where the water comes. We don't have wells, you can't get the water. And so we knew that we had some challenges there with getting water, getting wells, more wells, because the wells, we got a lot of wells that are way, way past their prime. And so we knew that we needed to do that. So our investment plan.
President Young, your sound has gotten low. I don't know that we can all hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me at all?
Maybe turn your volume up. It just sounded like your microphone went low.
Yeah, it's maxed out. I may have to jump off and sign back in because this may
That's
just be
better.
my connection. Yeah, it may be my connection. I apologize. But anyway, Nick, you want to, or Alonzo, touch on that infrastructure stuff?
Yeah, so part of what we need is invest in our wells, to get more wells online. We've been working to do that, and we will continue to do that. Got to have replacement wells. Wells do not have an infinite life. They fail for various reasons. So we have to be able to keep them well infrastructure up. The production side, of course, many of you saw the pictures of our variable drive systems that we have to maintain that provide ability to get the water out of the production plant into the distribution system. So making sure that is up and running so we can get the high service pumps and pump water out. But right now, what we're seeing primarily has to do with the breaks that happen in the system. And what we're dealing with here is an unprecedented cold spell. It hasn't been this cold, I believe, since the 1940s or something like that. And so our system is seeing something that really it hasn't seen. And therefore, you're finding that we have a lot of main breaks so far. We fixed quite a few of them, and we anticipate we'll have more. But the way that the water system is behaving right now, it's feeding something, and the water is and the pressure is dropping. It's producing a lot more water, and it's going out of the system, and the pressure is not. We're not able to maintain the pressure on the system. So that means there are leakages somewhere, whether it's at the homes or the businesses or in the mains in the streets. Nick, you got anything to add on that?
No, I think you named it. Yeah, we at our pumping stations, we've had enough wells to kind of keep the system running, but in this crisis situation, we do need additional wells for some redundancy. So that might be what you're referring to. So we are on a fastest pace that we can, and getting those wells installed and getting them in service. So we're pushing to do that.
So when you're stressed, you're finding weak spots, and the system's been stressed tremendously by the weather, and that's where we found the weak spots.
All right, picking up from there, as President Young is kind of getting cycled back in, the Council Lady Logan, I think we can answer the question. Is it infrastructure or weather? I think it's C, all the above. We have some older sections of infrastructure. We have freezing due to the weather. It's combinations of all the above that once we come out of this, I'm sure MLGW will give us a full report. That being the case, also, Councilman Carlisle, you're in the queue.
Was I? Hold on. Thank you, Chairman. First, I just want to take a second really quickly before I hop into a couple quick questions on the water. Just say thank you to the MLGW team. I know that a lot of people are frustrated, and we get it as a council, that these are very trying times. And as Alonzo just alluded to, this is a once kind of in a generation chain of events. And with older infrastructure, the council made the affirmative step last year to approve increases in rates to begin the process to upgrade our infrastructure so that when these events come, that we are much better prepared for them. And I know that MLGW is fast working on them. But I also just, again, want to thank not only just the executive team, but the men and women that are out there in the snow, in the cold, just day in, day out. Our attorney mentioned earlier that there was a crew in their neighborhood at sunrise rather, and it was pretty cold out there. And so I just know that the council and at least my constituents want to just extend their gratitude to MLGW, its team, and especially the people out there in the cold. Sincerely, thank you. And we are 100% behind you. I see Robert Connect is on here as well as Gary Rosenfeld. Extend the same gratitude to y'all's teams as we get the roads cleared and safe and people moving on MATA back to be able to get to work. So just want to acknowledge that and say thank you to all of you. So we've been talking about the testing. It's a 24-hour turnaround. I know that we have a typical testing, but at this point, are we testing, I guess, more consistently, like every 8 to 12 hours, every 4 hours, and consistent? How often are we testing while we go through this period of low water pressure?
Yeah, Nick, I think, or Alonzo both, because Nick's got the testing water lab in his area. You might want to address that, Nick.
How often are we pulling samples? I guess is the simplest way to say it.
There's a TDEC methods of how we do that. To be honest with you, I don't know off the top of my head how many hours we're testing. So right now, since we're under the boil order, the pressures are so low, some of the places they need to get to, there's not going to be, available water to do that. So where the testing will really pick up, other than our samples that we do on our regular regulatory compliance, has been once we get to the pressurized system, that's when you can get a viable test. When your system's in an unpressurized system, you're not. I mean, you can test the water, but you're still under your boil order. You've already said your water is unsafe to drink. So we're really going to ramp the testing up when we get the pressurized, get the system back pressurized. But I can get the numbers for you, what we're doing right now, but I don't have those off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I'd love to get that. I think people will always, it's a perception and at least comfort of mine to know that we're constantly taking a look at the water, and obviously we still want people to boil, but it does make people feel better. They'll say, I knew we were overreacting when there was no contamination, but I'd rather be better safe than sorry. How many gallons? We keep talking about the levels, and I don't want you to have to get too technical or too down in the weeds or over my head. It happens pretty easily for me. But we keep talking about a pressurized level, and I assume that has to do with the level of our reservoirs and the PSI and the pipes. But how many gallons do we need to be pumping? Like, what is that? And I know it's a broader question of getting wells back online and fixing water mains so that we're not spewing out pressure. Is there a general, we usually are at pressure or operating wells pumping once we get to 100,000 gallons an hour, or 1,000 gallons an hour, like what does that look like for us? Like, what are we tracking to?
Sure. So the state minimum that says you have to issue a boil order is you can't maintain 20 pounds of pressure on your system.
Okay.
So that's what triggers the boil. You essentially, and the reason for that, if you're not having positive pressure in your water mains, that can allow bacteria and things like that to grow. Like I said, we don't have that, but that does present where it could. So our triple operating pressures around the county are 60, 70 pounds PSI out of our plants. Each one of our plants has either 10 million gallon or 15 million gallon reservoir. So, and they're all a little different. Like I said, I don't get too far off in the weeds. I can, because I'm an engineering nerd, but they're at different levels. Some are at 11 feet, some are at 14 feet, depending on the field level. But they all have high level limits, and then they have low level limits that tell us, hey, that reservoir is getting low. You need to do something different, either increase your well water coming in or decrease your pressure going out, which means turn off a pump. So it's a really balance there of keeping your reservoirs filled and also keeping that pressure that we'd like to see it 60, 70 pounds around. But we're having trouble maintaining 20 pounds in some areas. And as you know, some areas have no water, so that's no pressure.
Right. It did. That's very helpful. And I would love another time after we get through this a few weeks from now to learn just a little bit more about it. But I guess it'd be fair to say, Nick, people can't say that it's somebody's neighborhood. It doesn't matter, because the word on the street is your neighborhood is been plagued by this.
Yeah, my son and my wife just took my mom some water. She's been out for 3 days or 2 days. Yes.
So yeah. Anyway, and I'm sorry to hear that.
That's okay.
And I appreciate, again, all the hard work. I guess the other thing I would just bring up while we're here, and I know we're here to focus on water because that's the near term emergency, but I think it's worth noting for the council that we have not had an electricity issue. And I think that's pretty fascinating. I think that's been amazing. And I guess I see Gail on a JT. We started with some customers out last week, had a pretty good rapid response, and have been pretty stable since. And I think, again, that's an attribution to the linemen and the crews that are out there. But pretty incredible that we're not having a discussion about that in this. Do you want to comment on that at all?
No, I'll just say that to your point, that as I mentioned earlier, and I've been in a situation, because where I grew up coming from the Gulf Coast, I've experienced situations where you got no anything, no water, no gas, nothing for several days. That is not fun. And we had a lot of, as you said, we did have a lot of folks who have worked hard to make sure that the lights stayed on, We had no power supply issues. We've been able to maintain. I may have mentioned earlier, I don't know if I did or not. I've been doing several of these, so forgive me if I'm being redundant. But we did, as we work with our large customers on reducing consumption. One of the first folks we reached out to, who happens to be a very large water consumer, is TVA, because of the Allen plant. They do use a lot of water, and their ability to shift some of their production and draw down the water usage at that location has really helped us at one of our pumping stations in particular. And so that's just an indicator. But all the time, of course, we've been able to, continue to maintain the supply of electricity. So that's really been important, because we don't want to be in a situation where we can't have any of the services available. We have had and will continue to have power outages. I know we had some earlier today. Some of those are just from, the things that's going to happen when you have electricity apparatus and infrastructure. But we've got folks out there working hard on, pulling all that stuff together to keep those to a minimum. So they've been doing a great job. I'm blessed to work and serve with a great team.
Yeah, absolutely. Just again, want to reiterate how thankful I am. And I know there are people out there that are suffering, but just there's men and women on the ground out in this weather and environment trying to get everybody back to somewhat normal. And we're just very, very appreciative of that. And to reiterate the fact that please do not believe things that you read on the internet. So please go to the source of information. But again, I'll yield the floor back, but just very grateful and thankful for the men and women out there just trying to get us back during difficult times. And thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Council members, I see. I'm sorry. President?
I just make sure, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to make sure we addressed, there was a question about the schools, and I wanted to make sure we, can y'all hear me okay? I switched systems. I don't know if this is better or not.
Yes, sir.
I need to get a aluminum foil put on the end of my antenna here. And, but I'm trying to make sure we're addressing the questions around the schools. And I guess the point I want to make back to the boil water question, and if this is addressing it, is just to, until further notice, until that's lifted, then anyone that's in the schools or wherever, doesn't just have to be the schools. Again, hand washing is fine with water that's available. It's just about consumption. If everybody would just think of it as anytime there's consumption of the water in any form, whether you're mixing it for tea or coffee or whatever, it just needs to be boiled first, just to be sure, as a precaution. So that's that. I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Thank you, President. Because yes, sir, to close us out, that was Council Lady Easter Thomas. You could get with President Young and the MLGW team for further information on that. Colleagues, just make sure we let all our constituents know. Go to the MLGW website. Text messaging and some of these falsehoods. Tell them, go to the MLGW website. To the staff, we'd like MLGW updates daily and general well map locations for Councilman Jones. Outside of that, does any other member wish to be recognized?
Hey, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I was just gonna say something to Gail. Gail, will you continue to keep us updated so we can send it out through our networks to our constituents if anything changes or any updates that y'all have at your 4 o'clock meeting that we could send out, if you'll continue to forward them to us?
More than happy to.
You've done a great job. I just want to continue so that we can send it out through our networks as well.
Thank you, but I definitely will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent point, Councilman. Excellent. So staff, you have your takeaways. Any other member wishing to be recognized?
Yes, I just want to make sure that we answered Councilwoman Logan's question.
President Young, the question was, is it the infrastructure or the weather that's caused these problems? I semi-answered it as C above, but would you like to?
Yeah, the answer, I'm sorry, Councilman Logan, I thought we had addressed that, but the answer is yes. It's really both and so what we have to remember is one of the things we said earlier, and Alonzo and Nick can probably tell you more about this, but every winter we experience breaks in our mains. That's a pretty common occurrence. This particular weather event was so severe that it exacerbated that. It's likely, but at the same time, what we typically haven't experienced was the stress on our production system at the same time that we apparently have had now. Some of the infrastructure improvements that we have in the works, of course, will minimize or mitigate. If we could have waved a wand and had that all done prior to this past week, we probably would have seen, we still would have had some issues, but maybe not to the magnitude that we have seen. So it's really both and, I would suggest. And Alonzo, you got any other thoughts on that? Or Nick?
Yeah, like I believe I said before, it's the stress of the weather on our system should expose the weaknesses of it. Does that kind of answer your question, Councilman Logan?
Well, actually, Chairman, may I?
Yes, please, you're recognized.
Actually, I did hear what was said about all of the above, and that answered the question somewhat, but now that you're mentioning, you reiterated it. Could it have happened if we had new infrastructure already in place?
I'm not sure I understand. Could it have happened if we had not had?
If we already had
improvement?
the wells. If we already had the new.
Oh, okay. Right. I got you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alonzo.
Wells would have offered us more flexibility as far as getting production into our plant, getting more water into our plant, and possibly keeping the pressures up. The number of breaks that we have in our system, which is not really, the mains were not ever part of our infrastructure improvement system plan. The mains themselves still break under a winter that is as cold and as deep and as long as it was that we had these past 10 days or so. So yes, some things would have happened. We probably would have had the main breaks, but we've been able to possibly recover and have more flexibility with more wells in service.
So more wells, that's an addition, not fixing the infrastructure, correct?
That's replacing wells. Like I said before, wells have a certain life.
Okay.
Wells begin to fail. They fail for various reasons. Motors fail, shafts fail, the casings fail and start pumping sand. Those are the things that happen to wells. And you have to replace them and upgrade them and change them, and sometimes put in a whole new well to replace that well. And we do that periodically. We needed to do that, and that's what we're doing now. But we've got more wells online now than we had a few days ago. But having been able to do that in the past, we probably would have more wells in service, and able to get a little bit more flexibility around addressing the main break issues.
So the plan for the new infrastructure that we approved, it included adding more additional wells?
Yes.
Replacing wells.
Not replacing them, but having additional ones. Did it include additional wells?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's both. In the infrastructure plan, it is to replace some of the older wells or the wells that we are having issues with, but it is also to increase the number of wells at our pumping station. So it's actually both.
Okay, last question. Is it, Chair, if I may?
Please.
I heard something about the TVA, the Allen Station well, or the Allen Station site location. You all labeled it as one of the larger customers, and that you were asking them to kind of restrict their usage. Is that the case? And I noticed that when we looked at the red dots and the yellow dots and the green dots, that they were in the red. Can you elaborate?
Oh, yeah, that's two different Allens.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah. So there are a lot of things named after Allen in our system. So there's the Allen Generation Plant, which is TVA, and then there's the Allen Water Pumping Station, which is MLGW. and they're physically located in two different areas.
Okay, I would just ask that you all remember that the general public may not know the difference, so.
Good point. Good point. Very good point.
Excellent point.
I'm confused. Thank you.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that's really good.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you all for the work that you're doing. We're praying for you.
Need it. We need it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, Council Lady Logan, I think that takes us to a very, very good point. We are saying prayers for you guys. I know y'all are out in some very, very nasty weather, very bad temperatures. We do have our thoughts, hopes, and prayers. I see no other members in the queue. Do any members seek recognition?
Jones does.
All right, I think we are good to go.
Jones does. You didn't hear me?
Sir, Councilman Jones, do you wish to be recognized?
Yes. I just want to take the opportunity to thank MLGW for what's taken place over the past couple of weeks. You know, I don't necessarily want to be in the "I told you so" mode, but at one of the meetings I talked about we are long overdue. I didn't know it was going to be this bad for a bad weather system. You know, having grown up in Memphis and lived in Memphis most of my 53 years, the last time that we had this much snow that I recall, excluding the ice storm, was 1985. So we're talking 36 years ago. And so I go back to essentially say and thank my colleagues, and I think that perhaps Mr. Canale or Mr. Carlisle mentioned this, but when the council acted to improve or approve the rate increases, the infrastructure, it was for things like this. And so, you know, Ms. Logan, we don't know, but I would also go, if previous councils may have had the courage to pass along a rate increase, we may have had these problems, but it may not have been to this extent. Nobody knows. But what we have approved is essentially saying that if this, hopefully this won't happen again anytime soon, but if it does, we've taken some steps to perhaps alleviate, and we won't have it this bad again if this type of system fails. Now, I'm going to take this opportunity too, since we're talking about MLGW and utilities. I just posted on my Facebook page, somebody sent it to me earlier. We can go down this road of being an independent player, and all I gotta say is look at Texas. There's a story that I just posted. We want to go rogue and lead TVA, whatever the case may be, and part of TVA too. I see you. Look at my Facebook page. That's all I gotta say.
Let's not get off topic here. Councilman Warren, you're recognized.
I just was saying that I was going to remind us of that. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Yeah. We'll have plenty of time to talk about Texas and all this moving forward.
Yeah. And I did text in there my thanks and deep appreciation to all the crews and the staff. Great job in a really tough situation, guys.
Councilman Canale, I see you're if you wish to be recognized.
No, I was just going to say thank you to everybody, Chairman. I was signing off.
All right, everybody, stay warm, stay safe. Thank you, MLGW. There being no further business in front of us, the executive committee stands adjourned. I'll see y'all